Hi everybody, today is Wednesday, January 18th. Let me talk to you real quickly about what's going on today. So at the front, underneath your folder here, you'll see that I wrote that students receive their instructions and guidelines for creating their element superhero, villain, or anti-hero. They also receive the requirements for their superhero, villain, or anti-hero masks. All documents are in this folder, and today is a work day. This right now is unpublished for you, so everything I'm going to show you kind of has a gray tint to it. That's because it's unpublished. That's okay. You won't see that when you look at it tomorrow. So when you open up the folder, you're going to see that I have several things here for you. First of all, as soon as the internet picks up, there we go. Take a look at this PDF, Element, Superhero, or Villain 2023, and I want you to go ahead and copy this into GoodNotes, and that way you've got it. You can go back to it, and then you can highlight things, or if you've got an idea as I go through this and you want to write that down, pause the video, write down your idea, and then pick the video back up again. All right, so here is your ultimate assignment. You are doing what's called a raft. A raft is a role, audience, format, topic activity, where you take what you've learned and you use it to create something else. So your role is that, remember, you are a comic book author who is promoting a new comic book character at the annual Comic-Con convention. The audience are other Comic-Con visitors. Your format is that you are going to create a comic book story that introduces your element superhero or villain or anti-hero with his or her background story and catchphrase. This is the origin story, and you also have to include a catchphrase. Okay, I'll talk more about that in a minute. Your topic is a new comic book hero or villain with characteristics related to the physical and chemical properties of an element on the periodic table. So let's go ahead and get ready for Comic-Con 2023. Your step 1 was to choose an element. Step 2 was to research it. Now we're on step 3, creating a comic book strip. You're going to create a comic strip that introduces your element superhero or villain and tells the before, during, and after story of how your character acquired his or her power or powers. I'm hoping powers. You must include the following. Number 1, the name of the element in your character's name has to have the name of your element in the character's name. So, Golden Goddess. We talked yesterday about different ways that you can incorporate the name. You can use the Latin name. You can use the symbol to sort of jumpstart your name. You can use forms of your name, abbreviations of your name, but you have to have the name of your element in the actual character name. Second thing, you must include 5 physical and 2 chemical properties to personify your element. So think about the hair color. Think about the color of the costume or the type of costume or what your costume looks like. Think about superpowers. Superpowers can mean like offensive powers, what you can do, but also ways that maybe you can defend against yourself. That could be a superpower also. You need to incorporate at least 3 other relevant information that you had on that data sheet that you discovered in your research, such as the name of the person or persons who discovered the element, the setting. So if you know the date, if you know the place, even if some of you guys, I know your element was just sort of always known since antiquity. So it's an antique, it's ancient, it's always been known. Incorporate that somehow, either in an actual setting or somehow in the speech or in the dialogue, somehow include that, okay? You also want to make sure that you include where your element can be found in nature. So if your element is found in igneous rock, incorporate that somehow. Somehow you got to include it. Whether your character is coming out of the rock, it got hit by a rock, it goes back to the rock. I don't know. You have to tell me where it comes from or where it can be found in nature. And if it can't be found in nature, you need to kind of explain that too. Embed a graphic of the periodic square and Bohr's atomic model of your element. And you can do this by using clip art or a hand-drawn illustration. If you're drawing your comic by yourself, it's really easy for you to include this on your own. If you're using the comic strip generator that I'm going to use, just go out and get a clip art or when I say, here's the periodic table. So I want the square. I think this is the one that I had you guys copy into your notes. So I want the square, okay? So you can just kind of zoom in like this, take a screenshot, show me just, here's 75, rhenium. This is mine right here. So just show me rhenium, and that's it. This is the square. So in the square, I need the atomic number, I need the symbol, I need the name, and I need the atomic mass. All this other stuff here, that's the energy levels. You don't need to know that. But just if I've given you a periodic table, use the periodic table that I gave you. And then when I say Bohr's model, I'm going to see if I can find one. Bohr's model rhenium. There we go. So Bohr's atomic model would be this, meaning that I've got the nucleus, which is where the protons and the neutrons are, and then I've got the electrons and all of the levels and the electrons, and they are orbiting the nucleus. So all I would have to do is just take a screenshot of that and incorporate that, put that in my comic strip. And you absolutely can do that with a comic maker that I have for you. And then, like I said, those of you guys that are just going to handwrite this, gosh, even if you wanted to put this on, like if I wanted to copy this, and I can go to, you guys can go to GoodNotes. I don't have GoodNotes open, so I'm just going to go new Google Doc, and I'm just going to paste it in there. Okay. And then I can make that smaller. And then I'm also going to put, I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to put the picture that I took of rhenium right here. I'm going to print that off, and then I'm going to copy this, or I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to paste it or glue it onto my actual comic strip. You can do that as well. Especially if you have an element that is a higher number element, you're going to have a lot more things. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to draw. So, yeah. Okay, so you're embedding a graphic of the periodic square and Bohr's atomic model of your element. And you can do that by, again, using clip art or a hand-drawn illustration. And then lastly, you need to display a catchphrase near your illustration. What I mean by that is you're using a catchphrase in your comic. Your guy or your girl, your superhero, your villain has to say this catchphrase. A catchphrase is a word or expression that's used repeatedly to represent or characterize a person. So here's some examples. Captain America says, I can do this all day. The Avengers, they say, Avengers assemble. And then Spider-Man's catchphrase is, with great power comes great responsibility. And of course, Batman says, I'm Batman. I don't say that deep enough, but I'm Batman. Ooh, that was pretty good. All right, so remember, you're going to use dialogue bubbles. You may use a narrative box with your panel or with your boxes. So like at the top, you can have a little box that has narrative in it, but that needs to be really scarce. The majority of your story must be through the use of dialogue. I know you guys are studying dialogue in language arts. I know that you know how to write declarative sentences, interrogative sentences, questions, exclamatory sentences. So I know you know how to write sentences. I also know that you've got knowledge of different tags, but you won't need tags because you can use bubbles to express your sentence. So those of you who are writing are at a little bit of a disadvantage. The kids that are using the comic maker can generate those really easily. You guys will have to do like a thought bubble or a speech bubble or I'm yelling at you bubble. What does that look like and how is it different? Okay. Don't forget to use inner and exterior dialogue so you can be talking to yourself or you're talking to somebody else. School, or the heroes and villains must be fully colored and in school appropriate attire or gear. I don't want to see costumes that are revealing, and I don't want to see anything that's school inappropriate. Okay, and then lastly, step 4, you need to create a mask for your hero or your villain that relates to the physical and chemical properties of the element. So you're going to be assigned one class period next week during which you may use the 3D pen. You guys will sign up for a class period. You get to decide which one you want, what day you want. There'll be a handful of you guys at different stations. Everybody gets to use their own pen, and you're going to make your mask. Now, if you need more time, you can arrange with me outside of school or outside of class if needed. You can come in during advisory or during guided study periods. And you may choose not to use the 3D pen, and maybe you want to use another material of your choice, and that's totally fine, but you must provide the supplies for the masks. I don't have a whole lot of supplies here that I can make available to everybody. So if you are not going to use the 3D pen to make your mask, then you need to supply your own mask supplies. All right, once you have an understanding of what's required, I've got this comic character backstory or biography, just a blank page. I really want you guys to think about what your backstory is. Remember, Peter Parker got bit by a radioactive spider. How is your character getting his or her superpowers? How are they turning into this element, superhero, supervillain, or anti-hero? So again, not requiring you guys even to write complete sentences. If you just want to use bullets and you just want to say, hey, this is what happened, then you're going to use this tomorrow when I show you the comic maker. Those of you who are drawing your comic, I still want you to do this because it's going to help you stay on task and not just get kind of caught up in the drawing aspect of it. Remember, at the end of the day, I'm trying to make sure that you guys understand and that you can incorporate the physical and chemical characteristics of that element. And that's the important thing. That's what I'm really looking at. All right, last but not least, I've got your superhero project rubric. I'm going to let you guys take a look at that. I highlighted some things that are important in those boxes. You'll be graded on your research, so don't throw away those research papers. You're going to turn those in to me. You're going to be graded on your personification of your superhero or villain. You're going to be graded on your backstory. Let me go back up. The personification of the superhero or villain, that also includes the creation of the mask. And that your mask includes character traits of your super. So like, for example, super easy one. If your superhero is able to conduct electricity, you should have something, indicating that on your mask, if that's a character trait that you're using. Or if your hero is invisible, like you still need to have a mask. You can't just not have a mask and go, oh, it's there, it's just invisible. You're going to be graded on your superhero backstory on the actual comic strip. So this is where I'm looking. Did you have 5 or more physical, 2 or more chemical properties? Is it accurate? Is an accurate picture of the atom and periodic square included? And then the additional information. Did you include the setting? Again, you may not have any slides or panels that actually are during that time. I mean, in other words, you can set it in modern days, but you have to include the information somehow so I know what date your element was discovered, or if it was something that was always known in ancient times. In the dialogue, somehow you have to include that information. I want to know some interesting facts. I want to know using inner and exterior dialogue with the appropriate bubbles. And then lastly, time management. I'm giving you guys a long time to work on this. So you'll have today, starting today, you have until, let me show you. Starting today is the 18th. You'll have the 18th, 19th, 20th, and then all of next week. And we're going to probably present Monday or Tuesday. Depends on snow days and what we have, if we end up having a snow day. So you guys have plenty of time. Use your time well. Use it wise. Don't rush through this. Really take your time. Okay, I'm going to let you guys get to work. If you have any questions, oh, actually, there's more stuff in here I want to show you. Let me show you this catchphrase generator I found. This is a link to a catchphrase generator that is 4 supers. And your name is Metal Man. And you can go in here and say, I am the thrilling, bionic enemy of evil. Ooh, that's a good one. And that's a really great superhero. Oh, God. I'm just looking at these old ones. Anyway, so that's the catchphrase generator if you're having trouble with that. The other thing I have in here is a generator for your superpowers. So maybe some of you are like, okay, you know, electricity, my guy can conduct electricity, but I'm not really quite sure what to do with that. So I've got your superpower origin generator. And so you can just get in here. This is how you got your superhero. And you're just going to click it. And it gives a bunch of ideas. Some of them are really silly, like you had extensive acrobatic training. That's silly. But maybe you were born due to your mom taking an experimental substance. Maybe your mom was part of an experimental trial and you got some kind of, I don't even know. You got your superpowers as a result of that. Anyway, so there's that generator. That's kind of fun for you to take a look at. And then in this folder here, I've got your requirements for your mask. Well, you guys know. First of all, masquerade mask number 1. I have a template for this that's covered in, I had it laminated, so it's really easy to work with a 3D printer. But if you want to use this mask, I want you to download this PDF, and then I want you to draw what you want your mask to look like so that you don't go back there with a 3D pen and not have an idea at all. In fact, I'm not going to let you go back unless you say, this is what I want it to look like. I'm going to have you guys do this in digital copy so that you have an easier time filling things in and not being limited just with the colors that I have. So here's the second mask. And then I wanted to include the color filament that I have. So that's what this is right here. So I've got all of those colors. Those are available to you. And remember, you will have one entire class period, 47 minutes to create your mask. So you'll be able to get some really nice detailed work. There's a video that I'm going to make available, and everybody has to watch it before you can start working with the 3D printers or with the 3D pens. All right, now I think I've gone through everything. Let me know if you have any questions. I will be back tomorrow afternoon, so you can come see me during guided study, okay? All right, you guys, have fun today.